I don't know, 3 or so folks to come up and share a story of grace and how it affected them. And we've got one volunteer right here. I'd like 2 more at least. I'd really love to have people who don't share too often also. Love to have you have the courage to do that. So yes.
Hi, I'm Christy. I don't have a specific story, but it was specific people that spoke into my life with grace. I have an aunt and uncle who I really cherish spiritually, and they're really a mother and father to me in that way. And I remember just thinking, every time I saw them, I felt this grace that was on, grace and love. Just, it didn't matter what I was going through, it didn't matter what I was doing. They loved me for just that, you know. And at my house, it was different. My parents, you know, I love them, but I grew up where, you know, you had to earn everything you did. There was no grace. It was like, if you want this, you need to do that. If you want that, you need to do this. So for me, it changed my life tremendously, because I was like, wow, this is a whole new way of thinking and being, you know, and love. And so I was able to implement that in my family, in my kids and my husband, and just be able to share that love and grace and not have to be the other way. So
that's really wonderful. Thank you, Christine. Yes, come on up. Make sure we're on the camera here, Adrienne.
Okay, I got a perfect example. I had to ask the Holy Spirit to bring it to me. It took a minute. Okay, so grace experience. I have some friends at home that are completely opposite my personality. I mean, they just sweet and nice and very angelic. No, really, like, really angelic. So what had happened was, we were in Macy's, and some people say I could be loud, but I don't think I'm that loud. I think that they listen loud. That's our argument, that they listen too loud. So we were in Macy's shopping, and my best friend, she was brought up in a really strict, hardcore holiness church. So she had a fiance, and I was teasing her because it was like 6 o'clock at night that, you know, you got a boy over your house after dark. So for me, that was funny because everybody's like living together at this point. It's common, you know, so having a boy, I'm like, yeah, you're having a boy over your house after dark. So I didn't realize, because she's so sweet, even when she's mad, you don't realize that she was mad, but she kept telling me to stop. But I kept going on because in my head, it was funny. In my head, it was no big deal because everybody living together, your fiance is just over your house at 6. So I wasn't respecting the fact that, number one, she didn't want to be the butt of a joke. And number two, that was really serious to her, like how it made her look because of the intensity or level of holiness she was brought up under. So finally, after maybe about 20 times, I had got that, okay, she's really serious about this right now. So I had stopped because it was no longer funny to me. But that's why I stopped, because it was no longer funny to me. The joke had worn out its flavor. So later she was like, you know, I really need to talk to you about something. And I was like, okay, cool. And she was like, you know, she brought up the incident at Macy's, and she was like, that really, you know, bothered me because I really didn't think it was funny and the way it made me look. And I'm like, wasn't nobody even in the store was like, Cameron, like, really, are you serious? But then she really was like, because I'm telling you, she's the sweetest person ever. So then I felt guilt, and I have felt now captive to the guilt because I hurt my really good friend who's a sweet angel. So when she showed me grace, because she could have chosen, that's what I had told them, she could have chosen to not be my friend anymore, because obviously I violated, you know, her as far as putting her business out there, which I didn't see it that way. And she could have chose to be like, you know what, you're way too different from me. You know, we don't have the same sense of humor. You don't get me. She could have done that, but she didn't, because she showed me grace. And this was at the beginning of our relationship. So she didn't have to show me grace. She could have been like, this chick is wild, crazy, not for me. We too different. But she showed me grace, and how that made me feel is it made me feel liberated, because at the time when I realized it really hurt her, I felt bound to guilt. So it liberated me. And how did it impact my life? It impacted my life because now I make sure I'm sensitive to other people's sense of humor and their boundaries and what they might be sensitive to. And I don't force people to think something is funny that I think is funny. So that's how it impacted my life. I really respect other people's sense of humor, their boundaries, and what they're sensitive to. And did it change how you perceive the person it came from? Yeah, just because somebody is quiet and like meek doesn't mean they're weak. She really stood up for herself. And I was shocked because I really never thought this little girl that's so nice could be so strong, because I thought meekness was weakness. And it really wasn't. She set boundaries. She really put me in my place in a loving way, and that's how it really changed my perception of her.
Thank you. Thank you very much. These are good stories.
So in 2008 and 2009, I went through a dark night of the soul that was so dark and so difficult that I felt like I had nothing to give, nothing to offer, nothing good in me whatsoever. And my husband was the one that showed me so much grace, and the elders of our church too, because I thought, why are they even letting me stay here? It was that bad. And I thought, afterwards I told my husband that, I said, I was just amazed that you still wanted to be married to me, and he was just shocked that I would even think that I would have thought that. But during that season, I kept thinking that I am no fun to be around, and everything in my life is so dark. How could anyone even want to be around me? And for him to show me that kind of grace and keep loving me and constantly be an encouragement to me was amazing. And it made me feel safe and secure. It impacted my life in so many ways. One of them was just that, knowing that people would love me for who I am, just because I am, not that I have anything good to offer whatsoever, and how it perceived the one it came from. I thought this was a really good question, because it made me love him more, and it made me feel secure with him, it ramped up my respect for him, and all kinds of good things that happened in our relationship because of it. And I think that a lot of times people think that if I show someone grace, they're going to think less of me, but really I think it's just the opposite.
Good. That's so good. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. One more. So that was like sowing seeds of grace that bore a lot of good fruitfulness.
So I've been a part of, I'm Shelby Lynn, and I've been a part of the youth worship team on my youth group for a couple years. And about a year ago, our worship leader, he had to step down because he was having classes on Friday nights. So he asked me if I could step up, and I was like, yeah, I can do it. And I was doing it for a while, and it was going pretty good. But then it was getting towards the end of the school year, and it was my senior year. So it was like a lot of stress, and I started feeling really overwhelmed, and I was like, I can't do this, I need a break. And I was kind of nervous to talk to him because for the longest time, I was such a people pleaser, and I didn't want to tell somebody something. Like, if I couldn't do something, I didn't really want to tell people. I'd do it anyway. But I was getting really overwhelmed, and I couldn't do it anymore. So I went to talk to him, and I was going to be so disappointed. But when I told him, he was like, yeah, I totally understand. I totally know where you're coming from. And he just handled it with so much grace and so much love. And it was surprising to me because I thought he was going to be disappointed and be mad at me. But he just had so much grace in this situation. And it really showed me that, like, when I say no to people, that I'm not going to be disappointing everybody. And that there's people that handle things with grace. And it was really good for our relationship, too, because he was like a big brother to me. So when that happened, it was like he cares more about me than, like, the ministry. And it was just a really good encounter with grace.
Thank you. Those are all good stories, huh? So, are you feel encouraged to extend grace? as we think about how it impacts us, then it gives us a new heart to extend grace to others. And sometimes it's over a long period of time. But somebody gives us grace to give grace, right? The grace just doesn't come from inside of us. It comes from the source of grace. And as we just continue to receive His grace for us and receive His empowering grace to stay with difficult situations and relationships, it's amazing how things change, isn't it? It's really, really good. So we're going to shift to the last section, but do you all need a little break before we go on? You're good? All right. Some people are heading for the hills, but most of you aren't. They're trickling out. Okay, so those who need to can go. Why don't we just take we'll take a 5-minute at least breather break, okay? 5-minute breather break. Breathe.